before you commit to someone, make sure to listen to this episode, because I know that once you commit, it is very hard to sometimes get out, right? Okay, so today's episode is talking about what are some things you really have to make sure you do before you decide to commit, okay? It is so amazing when you connect on an emotional level with the person and you can talk about anything and everything. You're aligned to everything that you want. You know, you're being super intentional. You're asking questions, open-ended questions, and they're revealing all this stuff, and you guys are so aligned. That's awesome. I love that, and that's so important. The other part of it too, though, you know, I don't want you to just rush and say, yes, we're going to be in an exclusive, committed relationship before you've done certain things. Okay, so what are these things that you have to do? See where they live. Okay, that being said, I never suggest go to someone's house on a first date, you know, or even second date, you know, because sometimes it's a lot of temptation and you'll end up, you know, hooking up and getting physical, and that's not what I want for you, right? We don't want to leave with the physical. So basically, after a few dates, at least towards the later part of that first month, make sure you see where they live and, you know, be really intentional about it. You don't need to, you know, just have it in your mind. I'm going to go see their home. Maybe they'll cook you dinner. You can see how they take care of their apartment or their house. Do they have roommates? Do they have their shit together? Do they actually have soap? How is their home? Like, I'm not saying walk around with like a white glove and see how much dust is everywhere, but it's just kind of like their home. Think about it. Think about your house. It speaks volumes on to like who you are as a person, right? As to who you are as a person. So that's part of it. Definitely, I cannot imagine, oh yeah, I'm going to say yes and be someone's girlfriend or whatever before actually looking at where they live, right? Okay, so number 2, hang out with their friends. See who their friends are. I've done an episode on just this topic alone, when someone doesn't want to introduce you to your friends. So I'm now in this episode assuming they are going to introduce you to their friends. And you are going to see, like, seriously observe, take the blinders off. Are they respectful to people, to their friends, to even anyone? Like, if you go out to a restaurant, how do they treat the waiters, the waitresses, the hostess, everybody, right? How are they treating people? Okay, like the way that they treat other people is so much how they're going to treat you. So they, you know, what I would love for you to see is, oh, they're respectful, they're kind, they, you know, like they're a good listener, they're attentive, they're a secure person, right? And so the way that they also act with their friends, like, I don't want them to completely ignore you or just like neglect you or not pay attention to you. That being said, it's like, it's a fine line, right? Because they are introducing you for the first time, right? So this is actually important, where they're introducing you and they're also including you and you know, talking to you and making sure that their friends are engaging with you. Like, you don't want to be in a situation when you go somewhere like, oh my God, meet my friends, and then they just completely ditch you. And you're like, this is kind of uncomfortable, awkward, weird, right? And then they're like getting like drawing shit-faced and like can care less about you. So like that shows a lot of their maturity, right? And so home, number 1, see where they live. Number 2, see how the friends are. And by the way, it doesn't have to go in that order. You can meet friends beforehand. That's perfectly fine. Family would be awesome. Like cousins, siblings, maybe parents might be too soon for you, but I don't think so. I honestly think, you know, the sooner you can meet everybody, the better. I remember the first night that Will met my parents was not planned. We all happened to be in the same restaurant, and Will and I were just dating, like in the beginning, first month. And I remember my reaction was ridiculous because my dad is so terrifying. And I just was like not prepared. It was just a coincidence that they happened to be at the same restaurant. And so I remember sliding down on my chair under the table And I grabbed Will. I was like, babe, get, and I didn't say babe. I said, Will, get down. He wasn't even baby yet. We're like so early. And we were on a double date with my twin and her husband at the time. So like that was already a big deal. Like they were meeting and it was like so fun. So I grabbed Will, I'm like, get down. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, well, no, my parents are right over there. And he's like, oh, I would love to meet them. And he was like, so sweet. I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? And we get up and we walk over to my parents' table. Will was so sweet and he was so respectful. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's really nice, right? And my parents were just nice to me. Oh, nice to meet you. But my dad normally looks really terrifying and doesn't like anybody. Like he has like that like resting bitch face kind of thing. Like he's just not like pleasant. And he's the best, by the way. I love him, but he doesn't have that warm, welcoming feeling, right? But now with Will, I feel like maybe because Will walked up and was really respectful, my dad seemed pretty receptive and nice to him. And we went back to the table, and it was so freaking cute. When we asked for the check, the waiter's like, "Oh, the Loors took care of it," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that was the sweetest thing." And Will's like, "Oh, I would like to go and thank your parents," and so we went and thanked them. I was like, "Oh my God, it was so nice." What I'm trying to say is, an insecure man would have 100% felt like, get me out of here. I don't want to like say hi to your parents, da, da, da. And I felt like it showed this really nice confidence from Will. I totally was insecure in that moment. Like I was like, oh my God, my dad is going to scare the shit out of him and he's going to go running. And I liked him. I was like, I don't want my dad to scare him off. And so, the point is, take a look, be aware of how they treat other people. If they treat someone with disrespect, they are an asshole to anybody. Don't be like, well, they're nice to me. Like, no, like that's bullshit. I feel like it's so important to have that sense of pride for your partner. Like you're so proud to, like, that's my guy, that's my person who we can go out and they treat everyone with respect. They're so kind, all these things. And so those kind of things need to happen before you're like, oh my gosh, yes, we're exclusive. I hope you are hearing me on this, because I know that sometimes when you are connecting with someone and you're talking for hours and you're spending so much time together and maybe even going to each other's places and maybe even having sex, and you're like, oh my God, I'm just so crazy about him. I think I'm in love. I'm like, well, wait a second. Have you spent time with their family? Have they spent time with your family? How did your family like this person? Did they not like them? Or wait a second, did they ask questions that maybe you never asked? Did you hear those answers? Did it reveal something else that you didn't know? Or perhaps they noticed, your family noticed, oh my gosh, you were so different with him around. It's like your little light was dim. Which, that's something that's like super important. Like how are you acting? How are you reacting when he's around and your family are going to notice things that you may not even notice. Like maybe they see you and like, oh my gosh, you were so lit up. Like he brought out the absolute best in you. Like you guys are so sweet and oh my gosh. And like that energy, it's so beautiful when your family gets to see it, right? So I do feel like sometimes this whole like, I'm going to wait for them to meet whoever, and then you wait until you're in a commitment, right? In a committed relationship, you're having sex, you're totally attached, then you bring them around the house, and then your family doesn't like them, and then you're like, well, it's too late. Now I'm in love, right? Like you're like, now I'm gonna marry them. It's like too bad. It's just hard to stop. Put the brakes on when you've gone too far. I've gone too quick too. So I'm telling you guys, this is such a huge gold nugget of advice. Whoever you're dating, introduce them to people. Introduce them to your bestest friends, your closest friends, and be open to listening and receiving whatever they saw, whatever they noticed. Sometimes people are really jaded. They might not believe in love, and they might be like, totally just gonna shit on whatever you bring around. So that, I'm not saying, oh, listen to those people. I'm talking about the people that really have your interest at heart. They really want you to find your happily ever after, and they are really aware of, oh my gosh, they know who you are, and they know when you're lit up, they know when you're shining, and they know when you're freaking in a relationship where they're insecure or they're dimming your light or whatever it is. So just, I do feel like the universe and God really puts little angels on our path and to help us along our path to find our person. And so, I would not have found Will if I didn't listen to my little angels along the way. Like my dad, my mom, they were so important in my journey, on my journey when I found Will. And I could have totally missed it. There's so many things that came into play before meeting him. And I had to do that inner work to even receive him and attract that kind of guy, right? But even at that point, so many times we are used to toxic shit or partners that are insecure, or we're feeling, we're like, wait a second, what is this? It's, and so it's so good to hear from people that love you, and also even better, like on top of that, where they have a healthy, loving, amazing, crazy love life too. And so it's like, wait a second, definitely listen to what they have to say, right? So I am so rooting for you and your crazy love story. Tell me, let me know. Reach out to me in the JkL&x on Instagram. Follow me. Please leave a review. That would mean so much to me, honestly. I want more people to hear this. I love you guys that are listening. I hear the feedback from you that you are loving this. Tell me what you want me to talk about, and I'm happy to talk about it. I truly always do. I have a lot of people coming into my DMs and say, oh my God, please do a podcast on this, do a podcast on that. I'm like, boom, I do it. Okay, so take advantage. Shoot me a message on the JkL&x on Instagram. Follow, subscribe, leave me a comment on YouTube, anywhere and everywhere. And do not settle for anything less than crazy love, because it has to be crazy love or nothing. Until next time, thank you. Bye.